you. It's nice to talk each year at Kamfa. And I've had the privilege, I guess, at least of coming 4 or 5 times. And so having said that, I think I have spent a lot of time in equity markets. And my view is that we are in one of the most interesting periods from a wealth manager point of view and from a financial advisor point of view. And we are, in my career, what I've seen is, it is phases like 2018-19, which are the most important years for a financial advisor. And why do we have this feeling? Is that whenever we look at markets, we look at it from 4 points of view. We look at where we are in the cycle, where we are in valuations, where we are on flows, and where we are on triggers. And these 4 points are the most important, which is why Harish mentioned that at a time you'll need to hold the event in a stadium. And at some other point of time, you'll have to hold the event in a smaller room like this. So that reflects the cycle actually, because when today, if we were to do an event, call it gold mutual fund advisors or property advisors, I think to get people into this hall would require a lot of advertising. So that's what we mean by a cycle. And over a period of time, people have learned to realize that cycles do happen. And if you go back to exactly 10 years and have an event on December 1, 2007, at that point of time, the prevailing view was that there is nothing called a cycle. There is only something called a bull market. And what I would actually urge people to do is that go back 10 years back and ask yourself what kind of a mood can be there in extreme optimism, and that's what we mean by a cycle. Valuations are something which are very easy to determine. They are perfect numbers, and the valuations will tell you where we are. And the flows and the triggers are the most important thing to determine the near-term movement of the market. There is so much of debate on flows. I keep telling people in 2012-13, when I met anyone in real estate, they said real estate as an asset class can never go down because flows will always be there. If you go back and introspect, you can't make out which is the month where flows to real estate stopped and flows to equity market started. So that's the most interesting part of investing. And the need for a financial advisor comes from the fact that all these 4 points are not easy to do for Aam Aadmi. And without a financial advisor, they'll make a number of mistakes in these 4 points. So where are we on the... I have actually, unfortunately, instead of 4 C's, I talk of 4 B's. And I was trying since yesterday to put convert the B to C, but I failed. For me, the B's are bust, best, boom, and bubble. Bust is 2013, where I'm sure the crowd would have been much smaller than where we are. And the best was all the way till about 3-6 months back. Why was that the best phase? From an investor point of view, you could have invested anywhere and made money. And you could have invested even in duration 2 years back. The kind of returns that you got in the last 3 years in duration was not small. So best is the best phase from an investor point of view. But the best phase from a financial advisor point of view is the boom phase, which is today. And I would believe that the market expands significantly in this phase. Like I've been telling people that most customers say their net worth is 1 rupee in bust phase. They say that their net worth is 2 rupees in best phase. They say it's 5 rupees in boom phase, and then they tell their net worth is 10 rupees in the bubble phase. So your addressable market has expanded 5 times compared to where we are in 2013. And the boom phase is the most interesting, and I would say it is the phase where people should just focus on work, because the kind of opportunities that you have at this point of time, you'll never have in either the bust phase or the best phase. And I think today, if you go and meet customers, you can actually do a business in the first meeting because of the fact that you're in boom phase. The bubble phase is the most uninteresting from a investor point of view, because most mistakes get taken place in the bubble phase, and that is the challenge at this point of time. The ecosystem in the world, and I won't say India, is not designed for the bubble phase, and it can never be designed for the bubble phase. So what happens is, in the bubble phase, in my opinion, all the mistakes happen. The mistakes will be committed by everyone, starting with the customer. And I don't have a solution, but I believe that someone was saying one of the C's is common sense. Actually, if you use common sense, you can avoid most of the mistakes in the bubble phase. But it's not easy to use common sense, because most of the time, common sense gets forgotten in a bubble phase. And I would actually say that common sense is something that one should actually focus on at this point of time. Now, where are we on valuations? It's very simple. We are no longer cheap. So we have put a color graph in our fact sheet every month, and that color graph shows that we are now in dark yellow. And that is the reality. What does yellow mean? It means that you have to look to the left, look to the right, and then go forward. You can't go blindly forward. And that's the phase we are in today from a valuation point of view. And the valuation point of view, being in yellow phase is not so much of a problem. It's a cycle which is more important than valuation. But I would say that clearly we are out of the green phase and we have moved to the yellow phase. And I'll come to what I think are to be done by most financial advisors in this phase. Investor behavior will remain the same. In the yellow phase, you will get more money. In the green phase, you won't get money. And if you're asking me, last year, December was a period where market had moved from yellow phase back to green phase. Unfortunately, last year, I'm told the Kampha event happened in September. So I was thinking that why did it not, if it had happened in December, it's much better to do events in green phase, because it's much easier to give a clear bull call than to give a yellow kind of call at this point of time. But you know what the flows are? The flows are absurdly high at this point of time. And in my opinion, the flows are the biggest worry at this point of time in the market. Because this kind of a flow, I think no one would have expected. I think if I look at November net sale, it will be the highest ever in history. And that excludes allotments done for closed-end funds in November. So you can imagine what kind of a net collection has happened in the month of November. Actually, I expect November collections to be like a record for a long period of time. And that's a kind of, in my opinion, the biggest worry at this point of time is investor behavior. In fact, I gave an interview. I thought I will get myself into lot of negative comments. Basically, I said that right now people seem to think that there is only one asset class called equities, and there is no other asset class at this point of time. And across the country, when I meet people, people seem to think that equities is a zero risk asset class or a very low risk asset class. And however much, because what has happened is 80% of the customers in India have not seen minus 10% in mutual fund. Only 20% of the customers existed prior to 2011. Almost 80% of the customers have come after 2012 who have not seen a 10% fall in the markets. And that's, I guess, the biggest worry at this point of time. So what is the biggest positive? The biggest positive is that earnings hasn't come. And if earnings had come, I would have been much more worried. Luckily, earnings haven't come. And to us, it looks like earnings will come in the next 1 year. But I would say that one of the biggest sources of comfort for me as a CIO is the fact that earnings hasn't come. People have been questioning me repeatedly because for me, about 6 months back, I had the opportunity to hear a very, very famous fund manager called Jeremy Grantham. And he defined a bubble as excellent fundamentals irrationally extrapolated. And the good thing today, if you ask me, if anyone looks at the market today, they'll agree that fundamentals are not excellent because of earnings. So my biggest worry at this point of time is earnings come in a big way, and when earnings come in a big way, then they'll get irrationally extrapolated, and that will be a big source of worry for us. So coming to the crux, I would say that today the biggest worry for me as a CIO is the way SIPs are being perceived as being risk-free. SIPs are risk-free and only if you want to invest for very long periods of time. I met at least 20 IFAs in India across the country. All of them give me 10-year SIP data. I ask each of them one thing: did you collect money in October 2008? Did you collect money in November 2008? Did you collect money in December 2008? All of them said, no, we didn't collect money. But they give me 10-year SIP and show fantastic data. The 10-year SIP shows fantastic data partly because of the monies received between October 2008 and February 2009. So what it means at this point of time is SIP as a product is something which you have to sell for the long term. And long term is not 3 years. In my opinion, if you're going to invest for the 3 years, I don't think an SIP is the right product. SIP is the right product if you genuinely want to invest for 5 to 10 years. So how to convince customers that you are going to invest the SIP for the next 5 to 10 years? If anyone is going to give you a 3-year SIP and you believe that that customer is likely to invest in SIP for the next 3 years, I would much rather invest in a category like Balanced Advantage rather than invest in an SIP. And this is what I have seen because everyone today is starting SIPs. I have absolutely great comfort in SIPs. I think SIPs are a great product, but the SIPs are a great product if you're going to invest in the next bear market every month. It's a great product. I cannot predict when a bear market will start. So I'm saying if you're not willing to invest for 5 to 10 years, I would actually recommend people either you invest SIP in hybrid funds or you invest in a hybrid fund on a lump sum basis like Balanced Advantage, because I don't think a 3-year SIP has any value from here. I would be very surprised if the 3-year SIP return is good. I'm very confident of a 10-year SIP, reasonably confident of a 5-year SIP, but I'm not very confident of a 3-year SIP return at this point of time. And if you ask me the 2 biggest problems when I meet financial advisors, one is the belief that you can invest in an SIP for 2-3 years and you can make money, and the second, the fact that debt can be replaced by equity all the time. These are the 2 biggest risks I see when I meet people all over India, and these are the only 2 risks to take care of. Mutual funds are a great product. I would say that the entire regulatory mechanism and the fact that all of you have done a brilliant job means that mutual funds are a great product. But these are the only 2 things to guard against at this point of time.